publisher will think that it's already available elsewhere, so there's no real benefit in publishing it as a book. If you are doing revisions to try and get your thesis published, it's a good idea to outline these as far as possible, because it demonstrates to the publisher that you've given a lot of thought to how you're going to change it and restructure it for book publication. So, when you're completing the proposal, there are some things that the publisher needs to know, and some things that may come up. For example, the title. Publishers, or academic publishers, nearly always want you to replace your clever title with a really boring, does what it says on the tin type of title. And there is actually a good reason for that, and I've borrowed a quote from the Wiley website which explains it quite well. It says, "The search engine assumes that the title contains all of the important words that define the topic of the piece, and thus weights words appearing there most heavily. This is why it is crucial for you to choose a clear, accurate title. Think about the search terms that readers are likely to use when looking for information on the same topic as yours, and help them by constructing your title to include those terms." So that's the reason that publishers do ask for very boring titles. Also, proposal forms are usually quite short, but you should try to give as much detail as possible. We're normally looking for 1 to 2 paragraph synopses of each chapter. You should bear in mind that the proposal is the main thing that the commissioning editor will go on deciding whether to reject the proposal or to take it further and send it out for peer review. Authors sometimes feel that reviewers have misunderstood their work, but you should bear in mind that they're going on the information that you've provided, so if they've misunderstood it, then there's a good chance that other people are going to misunderstand it as well. The other thing we ask about is the length of the book, and we ask for this in words. We're usually looking for around 80 to 120,000 words, which translates to a book of about 200 to 250 pages. For our markets, a book of under 100 pages would normally be too short, and once it goes over 350 pages, the costs go up, so it can be more difficult to make it commercially feasible. The extent should also include any footnotes. The other thing we need to know about is delivery, and you should be realistic about that. In practice, most publishers are prepared to be flexible, and they understand that authors' circumstances can change in the writing of the book. The exception to that is textbook publishers who will want you to stick very closely to the agreed delivery date, and the reason for that is that they'll be selling the book for course adoptions, and then if the book doesn't appear when lecturers have decided to use it, they'll immediately drop it and go for something else, and it effectively kills the book. Also, you need to include a CV, and remember that you're selling yourself as well as the book. The main things that sell a book are the topic and the author recognition or the author's reputation, so try to don't pick yourself up too much, but otherwise it might look a bit exaggerated, but certainly don't undersell yourself. You'll also be asked to comment on the competition. For research level books, as much as anything, that's just so that we're clear that you're up to date on the literature in the area, and also that your research is current. For the textbook publishers, they will actually want to know a lot about the competition, and they'll also do a lot of market research on that themselves. You should also be realistic about the audience for your book. Very few academic books are going to appeal to everybody, and it's unlikely that a higher level research monograph is going to be suitable for undergraduate students or to appeal to the general public. So you should be realistic and honest about what the target market is. So once the proposal's gone to the commissioning editor, they'll then make a decision on whether to reject it out of hand or else to send it on for peer review. The first thing they'll consider is whether it fits with their list. It's important to know that they'll be able to market the book effectively, so they'll want to make sure that it actually fits in with their marketing, that they can sell it. The other thing is an assessment of how well the book will sell. The publisher will usually compare it to similar titles, so they have an idea of how that's so they can gauge whether it's going to be comparable and if there actually is a market for it. The other things we look at is the seniority of the author or what their publishing record is, if they're going to be recognised as another factor in that. Once they've decided that there is a market for it and that it does fit well with the list, the next thing will be to assess the quality, and at that point they will send it out for peer review. The other thing might be, if it is suitable for a series, it might be sent directly to the series editor. Series editor will look at it, and if they have time, if they're very positive about it, it can then be put straight to the editorial board for approval. If the series editor has doubts about it or doesn't have time to review it, it will be sent out for independent peer review. So sending it in for a series can quite often speed the process up. It can turn it around very quickly. So reviewing is probably the most time-consuming part of the commissioning editor's job, and it's also the most time-consuming part of getting your proposal accepted for publication. We usually have a bank of reviewers, and we try to get them to review where possible. But if it's not possible for them to do it, then we have to find other reviewers. So it can take anything from 4 to 6 weeks to get the review in. Also, if your proposal arrives at a time when publishers are very busy, it may be a month before the commissioning editor has time to look at it. So it's very much an exercise in patience, but at the same time you shouldn't let the publisher drag the process out for months. It shouldn't take as long as that. If the reviews are universally negative, then the proposal will probably be rejected. If they're mixed, the commissioning editor will discuss with you which areas they feel it's important to address. If they're very positive, then it can go straight to the editorial board for approval. At an editorial board meeting, it's usually colleagues from sales and marketing and the publishing director who will discuss the proposal, and ultimately it's the editorial director's decision as to whether or not it goes through. The difference between a commercial press and the university presses is that the university press have a more complicated decision-making process, which is why it often takes longer for a proposal to be accepted by them. Once a publisher accepts your proposal, the commissioning editor will contact you, outlining the publishing strategy and letting you know when to expect the contract. Most commissioning editors will be more than happy to discuss the contract, so if anything's unclear or anything you're unhappy with, you should certainly raise that issue. The most common questions to come up concern delivery, the index, new editions, and gratis copies, and you should look for them 6 of those. Surprisingly, royalties hardly ever come up because most academic authors, at least, know they're not going to be able to retire on their book earnings, sadly. At the same time, you'll also get a copy of the house style, and it's very helpful if you can follow this as closely as possible, because it means your book won't get delayed or delivery. Once you've completed your book, your manuscript, you send it in. It will depend on whether the peer review process takes place at manuscript stage or proposal stage, on whether it goes straight to desk editorial or goes out again for peer review. If the commissioning editor is happy with it, it'll be passed straight over to the desk editorial department. After this point, there should be no further rewriting by the author. Your role is then to answer copy editing queries, check proofs, and liaise with the marketing department. Approximately 5 to 6 months later, you should receive your completed book in print, and then you can start thinking about starting the whole process over again. If anybody wants a copy of the notes